This is a bit of a shock. CP24, United Nations report says Canada should repeal MAID for people with non-terminal illness. So MAID is the medical assistance in dying. And originally that was supposed to be a program only for people with terminal illnesses that don't want to be hooked up on machines for the rest of their life, and they would go through a reasonable process, a legal process in medical assisted death. But ever since then, it's just kept changing the goalposts further and further and further, adding more people into this, and it's become just an absolute disastrous, diabolical means of policy. Point that even the UN's finally kicked on to this. So, a recent report by the United Nations Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities has asked Ottawa to repeal medical assistance in dying MAID for anyone without a terminal illness, also known as Track 2 in Canada's MAID program. Presented last month at the meeting of the committee, the report recommends Canada create a federal MAID watchdog to look into complaints and investigate the causes that led to the people with disabilities applying for assisted death in the first place. MAID is offered as a state-sanctioned relief for people who are failed by the government due to improper access to healthcare or housing, the report says. Poverty, lack of access to employment and services for people with disabilities, and lack of support system were also cited as factors. So, the Canadian government knows how awful our healthcare system is becoming, how deteriorating our housing infrastructure, how deteriorating veteran assistance is pummeling down. They know that the state of affairs is so awful. And rather than investing into those systems, instead of actually investing in Canadians to make it more prosperous, that would grow the nation, help develop more of this nation, and make Canada actually more prosperous for everybody, they decide, hey, because of all this, we're just going to allow you to die. We're just going to send a bunch of doctors, medically assisted suicide, offer that to you, because you now become a burden. That's what that says to me. Instead of investing, taking our tax dollars and putting it towards Canada goods and services, they're just going to tell you to die. They're just a waste of space. That's what they're doing to veterans. That's what they're doing to patients in hospitals. That's what they're doing to people with disabilities. They're doing it to anybody. You know, might as well just die. The UN committee wrote it is extremely concerned by Ottawa's broadening of Canada's MAID laws in 2021 to offer medically assisted death to people who have a permanent but non-terminal physical illnesses. MAID Track 2 has expanded rapidly since legalization, but only represented 4% of the 15,000 people chose MAID in 2023, according to Health Canada data. Charlotte Ann Chesky, I don't know how to pronounce that. Charlotte Ann Malachowska, president of the Canadian Human Rights Commission, told the committee that too many Canadians with disabilities lacked access to supports and services like healthcare, medication, and equipment. Again, all this because the Canadian government deliberately is going after fundamental services that help protect this nation. They're deliberately doing this. They're deliberately defunding healthcare, education, infrastructure, housing. They're purposely doing this. And their only solution left after destabilizing all these fundamental systems is, hey, we'll sign you up to eventually, medically assisted death. Some persons with disabilities were turning to medically assisted assistance in dying because they felt that they had no other options, which is terrifying. A summary of her comments at the meeting reads: The Commission remained concerned about Canada's lack of progress in implementing the recommendations from the international human rights system, including from the committee, it says. Canada needs a strong framework for implementation and monitoring to drive meaningful and coordinated progress and to meet its obligations. Isabel Grant, a criminal law professor at the University of British Columbia, says Track 2 is premised on the idea that death is preferable for people with disabilities. Preferable. That's a nice way to treat it. Canada, land of diversity and multiculturalism, but prefer to die. On behalf of the Feminist Alliance on International Action, Grant co-authored a submission to the Geneva hearings about repealing MAID Track 2, published on March 27th. Somebody else who wants to die, we offer them suicide prevention. We offer them support, Grant told CTV News on Friday. We don't offer them death. Exactly. I thought we're supposed to be loving, caring, and supportive in this country. I thought we're supposed to care for one another. What happened to Canada Strong? What happened? We're all in this together. That's all apparently went away. That's all apparently went away. You just, you might as well just go. Might as well just go. You have a disability? Too bad. We're not going to, invest in good health care. We're going to destroy the means of Tommy Douglas and that. It's a choice people with disabilities make, often due to facing social and economic inequalities and Canada's government failure to provide support, according to Grant. People with disabilities who are suffering are being offered death as opposed to what they might need to alleviate their sufferings, she said. The UN committee also asked the federal government to end the proposed expansion of MAID for patients with mental disorders. Yes. Yes. Now they want to go after people with mental health disorders. This is... I feel like I'm reading 1940s Germany. I feel like this is a Nazi scientist experiment. This is like eugenics in action. This is happening in the true patriot love, the diversity of Canada. We love one another, but if you're useless and have disorders and treatments that we just don't care about, just go die. Patients with mental disorders but no physical illness, and to ban any federal support for any requests in advance. Quebec announced last October that people with dementia and Alzheimer's disease could get approvals before their mentally capacity declines. Health Canada says they have no intention of repealing the Track 2 of MAID and will continue to stand with the system created by them, a spokesperson for Health Canada told CTV News in a statement. The legal framework for MAID, including Track 2, has been designed with safeguards to affirm and protect the inherent and equal value of every person's life. Really? Really? How much protection and equal value of people's life did you have when it comes to the COVID lockdowns? When you were bought out by the big pharmaceutical giants like Pfizer and Moderna, forcing people to get an injection. How much thought, how much safeguards did you think about when you enforced people to get a medical experiment done on them? Equal value of every person's life. As they're deliberately telling veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice to fight for this nation, as they're telling veterans to go to the MAID's program. Now we don't have the means to treat you. Remember, Justin Trudeau said right to a veteran's face that you become a burden to this country. A veteran. But we're going to send much more of your hard-earned money towards Ukraine. We're going to send a lot more money on vacation. We're going to send a lot more money overseas. We just don't care about you. We don't care about you one bit. Enhanced safeguards are in place for individuals who request MAID under Track 2 to provide additional protection. These include that the person must be informed of available and appropriate means to relieve their suffering, including counseling services, mental health and disability support services, community services, and palliative care, and must be offered consultation with professionals to provide these services. Well, how many times have I seen articles, and we've shown a lot of the videos too, where they didn't get any of this? They didn't get any of this. There was a corporal in the Canadian Army. Was it corporal or was it general? I forget what. But a high-ranking official in the Canadian Army, a veteran, who just needed a stair lift. That was all. Just needed a stair lift to get up and down the stairs of her 2-story house. Was denied by the VA. They said, we're not going to do anything about this. We're not going to fix your leg. We're not going to give you any of this stuff. But you're more than welcome to sign up for MAID. A healthy, active woman who served in the military, who has a busted leg from her duty in service, being told by the federal government, go sign up for MAID because you become a burden. And what's amazing about this, and this is what shows the amazing thing about people in regards to the government neglecting people, is that when she was denied by the Veterans Affairs offices of Canada, she reached out to people on Give, Send, Go, and she got a numerous amount of support to buy her a stair lift, to take care of her, to donate to treat her medical conditions. But the same government that claims to be protecting people, offering none of this to people, and just telling them to go die. This is the true patriot love. This is Canada in action. The health agency said the government of Canada will complete the review of the final concluding observations and recommendations and consider its response to the UN Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Track 2 MAID was first established as a result of a court case brought by 2 Canadians with disabilities who fought the right to access MAID without being excluded based on their prognosis. Dr. James Downer, a physician in the Division of Palliative Care at the University of Ottawa, points out, Canadians are not eligible for MAID on the basis of disability alone. They must meet all eligibility criteria, which most Canadians with disabilities do not, Downer says. Track 2 MAID remains an extremely rare event in Canada, whereas 27% of Canadians identify as having a disability. Well, if it's supposed to be a rare event, why did they keep extending it? Why do they keep extending it? It's supposed to be a rare event. Exactly. So why do you now are including people with mental disorders? Why are you now including what is classified as a disability? This is what's so sinister about this. It's so sinister. Because they know that it's supposed to be rare. It was intended to be rare. That was the whole purpose of why they created this main program in the first place. But they just keep extending, adding more people to the system. They're deliberately cutting more of healthcare, cutting more of veterans assistance to purposely drive people into this. And yet they still want to lie and gaslight right to your face and saying how protective we are of people's life. Wow! He emphasizes that the reversal of MAID's loss would lead to creating another injustice without addressing the real issues, according to Downer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But luckily the UN has pointed this out. And maybe it's because of stuff like this that we already kind of know about. But the Canadian government will never actually commit to owning up to this. So the CBC, when MAID first came out, this is back in 2017 they wrote this. When MAIDs first came out, the media championed this MAID program and said that medically assisted deaths could save millions in healthcare spending. So the CBC, the state broadcaster, is championing the idea of saying if we have medically assisted death for more and more Canadians, instead of looking into healthcare budgeting, instead of looking into our federal response to deteriorating healthcare, they're just going to say, hey, it's a good thing we kill off more Canadians because then we can save more on healthcare. Then we can just cut more on healthcare and get more people on board with this MAID program. That's the state broadcaster, CBC, reporting that, 2017. And they keep extending the goalposts, adding more people, even though they know it's supposed to be rare. So, this guy, Felix Rex, did this little thread here because this woman here, Christine Gauthier, is that how you say it? Gauthier? Grips Canadian government for authorizing to euthanize her. And this Felix Rex says, Canada is done, Fred. A paraplegic former Canadian military member is ripping her government, which offered to euthanize her after she complained about delays having a wheelchair lift installed in her home. She wanted a little help, not death. So, as they're trying to say that, oh, we're offering people services so they don't have to die and suffer, so they don't have to go through this. Bullshit. Bullshit. Here's another one. This is the new normal in Canada, but remember, unvaxxed nurses and doctors had to get fired for refusing the jab. And links to a CBC article. Winnipeg nurse says someone will die after Health Science Center emergency experiences 30-hour waits. So again, they're doing this purposely. They're undermining healthcare deliberately and pushing more MAIDs because they want to eliminate more people. Because now you become the burden. Now that you become the burden, now that they imported people, they can use cheap labor from insourcing, a bunch of migrants from other countries. You, an ordinary tax-paying Canadian, have become a burden. And just like other authoritarian governments, totalitarian, fascist reigns of terror and tyrannizing dictators, they're going to tell you that, hey, we got an option for you. Because we can't give you health care, we can't give you this. So we're going to hook you up to machines and you're going to die. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. There's another one. People have to die because they can't see a doctor, but supposedly unrelenting immigration is the key to solve the problem that has been created by unrelenting immigration. Another Canadian patient euthanized after inability to access prompt oncological care. So, again, because they're firing doctors and nurses for not getting and the mass amount of immigration is resulting in further deterioration of healthcare. Also, the lack of funding. Also, the fact that they're not encouraging more and more doctors. They're driving doctors away because of the lack of funding, because they're way overworked because of the amount of people that they're pouring in. They don't have enough services to meet the needs of these newcomers. And right now they're closing more and more down ERs in result to this. But they told you earlier that, hey, it's going to be great because we're going to save more in healthcare. We're going to save more in healthcare. Oh, does that mean I'm going to get some more money? No. God, no. We're not going to lower taxes. But we're going to get more money back by screwing you some more. Here's more of this. Canada's population effectively increased by 500,000 people in just 3 months. That's an article here. Statistics Canada reports record population growth, more than 430,000 in third quarter. So again, and this is not to, I'm not anti-immigrant, but when you have this many people pouring into the country at a very fast rate, that is problematic. That is problematic because you need to keep services updated for how much your population is going to increase. If it's increasing this much, obviously you're going to need more doctors. Obviously you're going to need more nurses. You're going to need more hospitals. You're going to need more ER facilities open on the round. But yet they're diminishing it. They're purposely doing this. How about this? Canada's immigration plan is not viable in any version of reality. That's from the Bank of Montreal saying this. Another big bank of Canada saying this. Canada's population added 430,000 in third quarter, 1.25 million in the past year. In essence, Canada has less of an immigration plan than it does a recipe for stimulating home prices. Canada is fast becoming a post-nationalist, debt-ridden nation with very little hope for the future. If you can, my only advice would be to get out. Canada is done. And now they just want to implement more people onto this diabolical MAID program. They want to continue pushing, changing the goalposts, add more people to this heinous act. And good on the UN for reporting on this. And by the way, the UN also, you may remember, recently called out Canada for this mass immigration policy by saying UN experts sound alarm over contemporary forms of slavery in Canada. Which is exactly the point. Exactly the point. The reason we have such mass migration, such an insourcing of these people, is because corporations tying themselves to the government are purposely exploiting the open borders measure to flood in as many cheap labor people as possible. So it undermines the Canadian dollar, so it undermines the Canadian worker, so they can't unionize, and it diminishes, more of the Canadian middle class population. And now that they got cheap labor, they're undermining healthcare, they're telling you that you're the burden now. They want to now open more and more of the floodgates of this MAID program. It is just a nation gone to hell. It is a nation gone to hell. And I'm, thank God for the UN to point this out, but it's sad. It's sad that not a lot of people will mention more about this. How devastating it is, how criminalizing it is, how, veterans, how people that are healthy and are physically able are being thrown into this mess. And no, they're not getting offered other options. They're purposely avoiding other options. Remember, Justin Trudeau said that Canadian veterans are a burden. Said it right to their face. And now you're seeing the diabolical measures that they're doing to Canadians that they could actually be investing into war. They could be investing in healthcare. They could be investing in infrastructure. They could be investing into veterans assistance. Make their lives better. I thought we're supposed to support our troops. This is how you support them? By telling them that they have to die? Oh, it's good that you didn't die overseas in war, but since we can't protect you or do anything about you, so go hook up to a machine and, end it. It's really just sick.